This episode is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Pizant Building Products. Pizant Building Products has been providing contractors and builders with the supplies necessary to complete their jobs since 1964. They have built a reputation of honest, helpful, and quality service, serving the HRM for the last 58 years, now with 7 locations in Nova Scotia and 1 in New Brunswick. Our team at Atlantic Construction Podcast is extremely excited to announce our new co-branded partner, Procore. Procore is the global leader in construction management software. We'll be conducting several podcast episodes with Procore users and construction companies across the country in 2023, among many other things. Stay tuned. We're excited. Okay, welcome back to the Atlantic Construction Podcast. Very excited today to have our guest, Wolseley Canada, Atlantic Division. So we have Tom MacKenzie across the table from me, Atlantic Director, Jacqueline Janes to my left, Sales Manager in Atlantic, and Stephen Gaudon.
That's right. Yeah.
Stephen Gaudon, account manager. So thank you guys for coming in, give us your time today. Excited for our conversation.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, maybe we can start like we usually do, just a little bit of context on our guests. Just talk a little bit about your background in the industry. Maybe Stephen, we can start with you. How you landed in the role you're at Wolseley, and kind of how things started.
Sure, yeah, definitely. So I started my construction world actually in Halifax, working for Dexter's years and years ago. And after doing about a 4.5 year career with them, I moved out to Alberta, went around to the oil patch a couple times and fell into a wholesaler there. It was an independent supplier, had 7 branches. So I started working with those guys. Really taught me the industry because it was such a small outfit that they had. So got to know customers out there, got to know how the whole industry of wholesale worked. And then we were about to have our first kid, and we said to ourselves, we were raised in Atlantic Canada. That's where we're going back.
Right.
So we dropped everything, quit a job out there. Everybody said I was insane. Came back here and went looking for a wholesaler that would take me on. And anyway, ended up at Wolseley Canada, and now this summer be 4 years. Been here for 4 years, so it's been a great time.
Yeah, and I don't know if you'd agree, but I feel like it's kind of a common tale, or guys will go from the sites, move into a supplier role or some other more white collar role, like as a PM or something. But it does give you a unique experience, right? And the guys you're working with as clients or as a vendor and stuff, you just have the language, the kind of respect level. Do you find that?
I do. I mean, I like it because you can walk onto a job site and I feel like I fit right in. I can walk up into a C-can, sit with a guy in a C-can and have a coffee and discuss some business. And it's just something that it comes natural to me, where I think, if you spent your whole career in an office, you might be kind of out of your element doing that.
Yeah, it definitely gives you an advantage when you're dealing with the guys that connect with you on that level. It gives you the advantage over someone who doesn't have that experience. Yeah. What about yourself, Tom?
So I guess this is my 26th year with Wolseley. I grew up in Pictou, Nova Scotia, moved to Hamilton in 96 and started with the company in St. Catharines. Yes. And I basically kind of worked my way up through the company. Started in the warehouse, did some time on the counter, outside sales, national accounts. So, different stages of my career, different focuses within the business. And then I'm coming up on 4 years now. We moved back home. So took a regional sort of management position with Wolseley back here in Atlantic. Moved the kids and my wife back home, and we were here just about 5 months before the pandemic. So
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's my journey. A little bit different than Steve.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think though we've had, a number of CEOs and people in upper management positions or governing, Atlantic regions and stuff. And a lot of whom have come up through the ranks in different facets of the company. So they have context and experience, and I'm assuming that beyond lots of other variables too, that gives you a big advantage when you're in your position, just to be able to have that understanding and that experience, and you're dealing with all these different variables like that every day, right?
100%. Absolutely. And I mean, you've kind of worked in the shoes of a lot of different folks in the business. So when they're raising concerns, you know exactly where they're coming from. So it's definitely an advantage.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And Jacqueline.
Well, definitely not an industry I thought I'd see myself in, but so I graduated commerce at St. Mary's and was actually working for telecommunications when a company convinced me to get into the HVAC business, and I stayed there with the general contractor locally here for almost 9 years. And then I went on the rep agency side. So I was with repping Samsung here in Atlantic and had collaborated with Tom on a couple of projects. And when Tom moved into his role, I was like, oh, maybe this is a good environment for me to be in. So the position came up, and I knew a lot of the team by working with them on the rep agency side. So it was a great shift. It was a good movement for me to move into the sales manager role, and I came in at a time that, Tom was new in his role, and the company itself had made a lot of changes. So the timing was perfect, and it was during the pandemic, but it was an amazing shift for us. Yeah.
And you're from Newfoundland, is that correct?
I'm originally from Newfoundland. I came here and finished high school in grade 11 and grade 12, and then went on to St. Mary's.
Okay, so we have 2 provinces covered here because you're both local. You're both Nova Scotian, right?
That's
Three
correct.
provinces.
Yeah, three.
Yeah, because I'm from Prince Edward. I forgot myself. I'm not important.
Yeah. So, and that's actually what's really cool about, our roles. A lot of the time we get to take care of the 4 provinces.
Yes.
So, separate from the rest of Canada, when we talk with, other associates of Wolseley, we're quite unique out here in these 4 provinces. So it's a lot of fun that we get to kind of work our team throughout the whole region.
Yeah, I feel like a different dynamic to the markets, right?
For sure.
Central Canada.
Smaller region,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
bigger geography,
Big-
right?
exactly.
A challenge to cover.
Yeah. So maybe we could start just by giving our listeners just kind of like a 101, some context on Wolseley as a wholesaler, kind of like, just a little spiel on the business itself. You're, lots of partners involved. They're dealing with HVAC and plumbing contractors as partners. Maybe we could just, between the 3 of you, kind of just give our listeners some context on kind of the operations of Wolseley.
Yeah, so I would say as a whole, we are a national distributor, national wholesaler of HVACR plumbing products, as well as industrial and waterworks,
Right.
right? That's our general day-to-day business, just contractor relationships and supporting contractors in our markets.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have 220 locations across Canada and growing. We're just shy of 3,000 employees. I think just 2,800 and some change right now of employees across Canada. And like Tom said, we cover all the provinces. So we're coast to coast, unlike, some other distributors in the country.
Yeah, that's a large operation. I think you were saying before there's 8 locations in Atlantic Canada, 4 in Nova
That's
Scotia.
correct. Yep.
Right. 1 in Newfoundland.
So 1 in Newfoundland, we have 3 in New Brunswick, and we have 4 in Nova Scotia. That's
Correct. Correct.
We don't have an actual location currently in PEI, but we do have representation over there.
Okay. And so these locations are retail stores. Is there, like you were mentioned before, there's a facility is it Ontario?
It's in Milton, Ontario,
So
and that's our regional distribution center.
Right.
Right. So that is a hub of sorts. So it's just over 300,000 square feet in Milton, Ontario, that houses a select group of products for us, like our main movers, basically, our Class A and B items. And we have those housed there. So if it's not in-house with us, we can have it generally next day, sometimes same day, but generally next day.
And at a minimum, we would get 3 shipments a week to our branches.
At a
in
minimum.
Atlantic.
Yeah.
From
BC.
that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, go ahead.
No, sorry. I was going to say, I think that's what really sets us apart as a wholesaler. We all, like all of our branches, work together to transfer stuff in. We could see something in Newfoundland. We could have it here in Dartmouth.
Right.
Other wholesalers kind of work as independents, right? So they don't have that capability. So it works very well.
Sound like you're backward integrated more into the logistics and
For
supply
sure.
chain.
All
stuff.
over the place.
Lots of moving parts. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so here locally in Atlantic Canada, where are large shipments being stored here? Is there one kind of center here as well for you to feed the 8 locations, or?
Yeah. So I guess in partnership with our distribution center, we would have smaller hubs in each region as well. So for us in Atlantic, Dartmouth is a hub for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
We
Yeah,
just added
absolutely.
13,000 square feet just to that hub in the last year
Mm-hmm.
to be able to deal with the growth in our industry right now.
Yeah, as like Tom, you were saying before we went on air, like if you're dealing with on the commercial side, like large shipments, big volume jobs, whether it's a hospital or maybe a multi-res project, and you're getting that in, and the project's taking longer on schedule, then you have 3 others coming in, and you're walking around that, and it can get
Absolutely.
pretty backed up pretty quick.
Yes, for sure it can. I think we're all feeling that pain, right,
Right.
in this business. And yeah, when projects get pushed, it definitely is a challenge for us at the branch side for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so for Atlantic, can we talk a little bit like commercial, residential? Like, is it kind of an even split, or is for sales, is it more on the residential side, a bit of both?
The bulk of what we're supporting today is
Right.
commercial
Okay.
business
Yeah.
and HVAC. Those
Right.
are our biggest categories right now,
Okay.
presently.
Right. And Steven, so you're working with you mentioned before, you're working on a lot of multi-res projects, a lot of kind of high volume supply on each one. And
Yeah, like our city's really kind of turning that direction, I would say.
yeah, and you're focused here in Nova Scotia yourself.
Focused right here in Halifax and Dartmouth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of upcoming projects in the next few years
Mhm.
that are, 200 units plus. There's a lot of those projects on the go right now. So our city's really, turning that direction when it comes to multi-res, and it's a great opportunity for us.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell us, like, and for our listeners, like, whenever you see you mentioned 200 units, or there's in the next project you work on for a multi-res, what are the items typically that Wolseley's taking care of? Not always 100% of the mechanical and plumbing, but certain percentage, like it's the filters, it's the fixtures, it's the boilers, it's the,
Well, we look at the fixtures. We do very well in their fixture business. Then your consumable business and your equipment business. So your consumables would be your pipe valves and fittings, your plastic pipe, your Victaulic, your Uponor, that sort of thing. And then your equipment would be what runs all that stuff, right? Your boiler systems and your pumps and stuff like that. So usually, we try to get all aspects, but sometimes we get one or two, but we're happy with partnering up with what we can do, and we appreciate that, right, from our partners.
right.
Yeah.
And it's a big part of your business on the contractor side. We were talking earlier as well, different from architectural, different from different parts of the spec when you're dealing with mechanical, plumbing. These contractors are fully licensed. They're installing, really complex units and systems and whatnot. So tell us a little bit about the process, like to screen out or to take on a new client to supply. It's not about volume necessarily, but just about make sure they have the right licensing and they're legit and all.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're a little bit different in that. I mean, we don't touch the retail side of the business, right? So we're not dealing a lot with walk-in homeowner type of customers, right? It's all licensed contractors.
Yes. Yeah.
And these are, quite often contractors that we are building long-term relationships with, right?
Exactly.
I mean, they become almost family to you, right? And they need to have the right licenses and certifications and all that type of thing.
Yeah, because that's a big deal for them on the contracting side. If they find a good supplier who can take care of them as far as lead times and meeting the spec and whatnot, it's really a pain to have to switch out.
For sure. Absolutely.
Right? So it's very long term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. Absolutely.
Jacqueline, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the initiatives for Wolseley? And you mentioned a few different...
So some of our national initiatives.
Sure, yeah.
So, very near and dear to us, Wolseley is definitely a give back type of company. So nationally, we do various initiatives for Habitat for Humanity. Tom, just last year, we took a team for the day to go out and actually build, but we do various fundraisers throughout the year as well. We'll have different initiatives just locally, branch-wise, and then nationally. This year we did win an award for the Game Changer Award for United Way. So we raised just our associates alone raised almost $100,000 for the United Way, and which got us the Game Changer Award. We're very proud of that. And so we do the Habitat, we do Special Olympics as well. So that's another great one. We do the truck rally every year. It's a lot of fun. We go out and support, all the drivers and spend the day fundraising for that as well. So, giving back to the community is extremely important. And I can speak just from our team here locally. For us, it's certainly something that we want to give back to our communities and make sure that our communities are aware that we are a very conscious company. Right?
Wow. Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So how many team members for Wolseley in Atlantic?
Right now we have 88.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so those 88 would be made up of salespeople. Like, what's kind of the breakdown of?
Yeah. So, I mean, we would have folks in the warehouse. We
Yeah.
would have counter folks. We would have inside sales folks,
Right.
outside sellers, quotations.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have some pretty specified people in some of those roles as well. Like Kristen, who's head of our quotations team. She's an engineer and she heads our quotations. You talked before
Bid spec
about
work.
our
Yeah.
bid spec work. And so that is a very specific role. And we're dealing with all of the contractors on any of the
Right.
hospitals, schools, any major projects that's coming up in the Atlantic region.
So would she be in touch with architects on these projects, on the spec and on the products that are being spec'd and that kind of thing too at that point of the?
So she will deal with the engineers.
Okay.
We don't
It's more
necessarily
of a
engineers.
sales role, though.
Yeah,
too,
Okay,
yeah,
right.
we
Yeah.
don't drive the engineers. We don't drive the industry that much. It's more our vendor partners
Yep.
and us.
Yes,
We will partner
right.
together with our vendors. Specifically, she's dealing more with the intricacies of, if there's product changes, any, bid spec is very specific, as we
Right.
mentioned. So if there's longer lead times, we can't meet certain things. So that's when she really starts to get involved with, changing out products and
Right.
various options for the product.
She's just really slicing and dicing a lot of the bids
Yeah.
that come
Yeah.
across the desk,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Pricing them,
There's
working with
constant
the sales
pulse
folks.
on the bids coming in.
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
Absolutely.
And there's
Yeah.
a whole team
Yep.
under her. So I think there's 5 on
Yeah.
her team
So
as
4
well.
quotes reps, call them,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And then we have a project manager as well. So Tammy Conway.
Okay.
So once we win a bid, it then becomes Tammy's job to execute it.
Right.
Now she's working a lot with the vendors on ETAs and the customers and the sales reps as well.
Takes
Right, yeah.
takes a lot off of the branch network and the
Yeah.
sales.
Yeah.
Right.
But
So
all
you-
that happens upstream to make something go smooth.
Exactly.
Once you're
Yeah.
finally bringing, these materials to site for the contractor,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot behind it.
A lot.
And I think that talking a little bit about how Wolseley is unique in a sense is, the teams that we talk about, they run throughout the region, right? So we're not a branch specific, a specific location, which is really great because a lot of the companies and contractors that we're dealing with, they're not just one branch location
No.
either.
No.
So Tammy and Kristen, the people on our team, have eyes on the entire region. And oftentimes we can say, hey, we did this on this other job with, this team here and this location. This is what worked. And it really helps our contractors, right? This is
Yeah.
truly a partnership. And so being able to have people that oversee the region and look more outside of just, not just your project in Newfoundland, but what happened here in New Brunswick, what happened here in PEI. So we can work and give the best
Sure.
result for our contractors.
Yeah, you're building off similar projects that
We
are
certainly
happening
are.
all
Yeah.
throughout
Right.
all the
Correct.
regions. Yeah.
And we talked about space earlier, right? And the branch
Yeah.
network. And
Yeah.
I think, on the PM side for Tammy, it's a challenge right now, right? I mean, it's great to win jobs, but you need to be laser focused on the schedule of when the material is coming in so that it
Right.
makes sense for everybody, right? So there's almost like since the pandemic, there's an extra layer there that
Yeah.
you really need to consider.
Yeah. And when you say that to me, like just from, I'm not extremely experienced, but just a little bit of project management, and you see a project come out, the bigger, the more complex it is, especially with some of these public jobs that you're supplying, or you're supplying a certain percentage of HVAC and plumbing, whether it's healthcare or school, or like when they set a timeline or a date, a start date, a lot of times, people say, oh, this makes sense, maybe August but the thought that goes into that, it's a formal document, it's a
Yeah.
legal document.
Right.
Like that date has a lot of meaning for a lot of people.
The
and a lot
penalties
of dollars.
behind it are very
Yeah,
strict.
Oh,
right. So
100%.
So
on the,
some of these are
so I guess
crazy.
shout out to the PMs who come up with these schedules. Like, well, it must be nice. All I got to do is sit there and make up a schedule.
Yes.
But yeah, it's not that easy.
No, definitely is
and,
not.
You know,
No, she does a great job for us.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Well, talk maybe a little bit about, as a wholesaler, there's so many brands, so many lines that you're associated with. Like it's got to be hundreds.
Well, I think what's our SKU count? 170,000 or something.
Yeah, something like that.
As a national brand, yeah.
183,000 SKUs right now.
Right.
I would say probably the one that we focus
A lot
on.
to manage.
100
Yeah.
was way off.
Yeah.
Right. We
Gotta
do have
remember them.
a
A lot of
lot
part
of
numbers.
SKUs, a lot of partners, a lot of vendors. I think the one we probably pride ourselves most on is our own brand.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And our own brand is a Wolseley's own labeled products.
Okay.
So maybe Steve, you want to talk a little bit about some
Yeah,
of the ones
for
that you
sure.
work the most with here in the city. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a fixture line, like a complete fixture line of our own brand products. And when it comes to the industry, we have our competitively priced ones, and then we also have our ones for the high end
Sure.
units that people are looking for.
Yeah.
That extends into our hangers. Pipe hangers.
Yeah.
We also have an own brand product on those, and that's a consumable product. So it doesn't really matter what your taste of a toilet or a sink is. Your hanger is a hanger, not many. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So there's
and for folks that are in the industry,
yeah.
you'll see these, in
Yeah.
exposed ceilings, these hangers on there.
Some guys like
on the
different
line.
types of hangers, so I shouldn't
Yeah.
say that. Some contractors
Sure.
are kind of picky when it comes to it, but
But not necessarily for the aesthetics. It might
for
be
the
more the
aesthetics.
functional, and the
Exactly.
installation, and the
Exactly,
time
yeah.
it takes to install
Yeah,
them, probably
right,
mostly.
right.
But we're doing very well. Like we've got it into several buildings in the city, and,
Okay.
and the feedback is quite good. Right?
Are there some other Wolseley internal lines other than fixtures and what you just mentioned? There's many probably.
I would say
So,
Brock is one, like on
Yeah.
the HVAC side.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Brock labeled air conditioners, furnaces, heat pumps,
okay.
air handlers.
Exactly,
So
yeah.
that's a great line for us as well.
Yeah. Are you noticing anything right now, like in the market here? Anything trending, or has it always been that way? Lots of people want heat pumps. Are you noticing any kind of new trends, or
I mean, the rebates have
rebates are a
really-
big thing,
HVAC.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're
Going
really governing
really
the
well,
market
yeah.
right now, and they're helping the direction. So a lot of people are going with more efficient products, obviously. So
Right.
we have been seeing a trend in products that are listed on the rebates category as well. for
Okay, and
sure.
explain that a
Yeah.
little bit for our listeners who might not know what you mean when you say the rebate categories for energy savings.
Correct. Yeah, there
Yeah.
are energy rebates throughout, federally. There are
Yes.
federal rebates and there are provincial rebates throughout all the provinces. And so if you are looking to make a switch from oil or electrification, of course, is big right now. So
Right.
if you are looking to make that switch to a more efficient system for your home or for your business,
Yeah.
there are government grants available that you can recoup some of that installation cost. For a lot of these grants, you do have to have audits or a
Yeah.
pre-inspection and so on. And so once you have a pre-inspection, usually a document will outline what it is that you'll be required to do to be able to attain, a certain amount of funds back. And so there are various ones throughout all the provinces. There are federal ones, but you can also piggyback with some of the provincial ones. So it's it's a lucrative time right now, actually, it's a perfect time for a lot of homeowners to make that switch.
And that wouldn't just
yeah.
apply to like heat pumps. There's other all kinds of different scenarios
Yeah,
that
there's
would
various
apply
scenarios.
for.
yeah,
Yeah.
hot
For-
water heaters
Hot
too.
water heaters.
Right.
Yeah, for us, I would say predominantly it is the heat pumps that we're working the most on, and
Yeah.
it's really driving an increase in sales for us in business for
Wow.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's pretty critical for us to really help to educate our customers, right?
Yeah.
And when these trends are changing, we need to be changing our inventory levels locally as well. So
Yeah.
I mean that relationship
Yeah.
is pretty important when it comes to that and the change of inventory needs.
Yeah, I think especially in the verticals that you're in, a lot of complex material and units and how they're functioning, and then education, like you said, Tom's got to be a big thing. Are there proactive things that you can talk about that Wolseley kind of does here, as far as like information sessions or just kind of hosting, talking with the contractors or the end users? Is there
Yeah,
kind of
sure.
yeah?
So for an example, I mean, we have on our team, we have a category sales specialist for HVAC. So Joey Robertson, that's his role, day in, day out, live and breathe HVAC. And supporting Joey is a technical service person, Brian Houghton.
Okay.
And what they've been doing a lot lately is performing training sessions, right?
Right.
So certain manufacturers are coming to town, and we're trying to line up contractors to come in and just get educated on new equipment or technical support
Right.
for the particular piece of equipment. So,
So like for installation purposes, and
installation,
for just
service, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Stephen, can we, or all three of you, can we mention maybe some jobs in like Newfoundland, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia that you've been involved with, whether it be, hospital or a school or something commercial, something that, people in the community might be aware of. It's a new building or one that's currently happening, maybe just some different projects you're proud to be part of. And
You can go first if you want. Yeah.
Well, I'd say like there's a big one going up here in the north end Dartmouth, which is Richmond Yards.
Okay.
It's kind of a new skyline there.
pretty hard to miss that
Yeah.
one.
North end
Yeah,
Halifax.
see it on the
sorry.
bridge. You
Yeah.
cross over.
Yeah.
North end Halifax, I meant to say.
How high are they up there with the tower now?
I
They're
believe
not.
it's 30 stories, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, not to cut you off, but
Yeah.
but for a long time in the city, right? 27 was the cap
Yeah.
at Fenwick.
Right.
Now you're seeing multiple buildings at 30 and above. I think few planned
Yeah.
for 34, 35. So it's like we're
Be like the
breaking the
Toronto
threshold there.
skyline.
I think
here.
that's just
Yeah.
the start of one. I think there's multiple of those that are probably going to be coming
Yeah.
down the next 5 to
on
10
Richmond
years,
Yards
right?
is multiple buildings, 3 buildings now. It'd be 8
Yeah.
or 11 by the
Yeah.
end of the. But please
So
continue.
anyway, we did a portion of that with the contractors. So
Okay.
that was a nice one to be involved in. We have a couple other ones. The Mills downtown right now. It's
Spring
right
Garden?
on Spring Garden.
That's
so,
Westwood, right?
Westwood Developments. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're working with them.
Can you mention the contractors that you're working with on those jobs, like the subs, if they're listening in on the site?
Yeah,
or-
well, that would be Eastern Plumbing.
Okay.
Which is a great partner of ours.
right.
And then Richmond Yards is Ace Mechanical.
Ace
who's
Mechanical,
doing
okay.
that one. Yeah.
So you mentioned you're supplying a certain percentage. Can you talk a little bit about that for our listeners who, might not be that familiar with the mechanical plumbing trades and suppliers? It's not always that you're supplying every piece of equipment
No,
for
you-
HVAC and plumbing. It's so complex and vast.
Yeah.
There's often different suppliers involved when you have an in or a contract there. Right?
Oh, on a job that big, you're going to have
Yeah, of
probably every
course.
wholesaler in the city is going to get a
get a
portion
piece of it,
that-
right? No
that
one
job.
wholesaler can handle it. It's
Yeah.
not even good business.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
I can't say what portion because I don't want the
Yeah,
competitors to know,
no,
right? So,
Just for context, and so can you talk a little bit about what are you supplying at Richmond Yards? Not that you have to tell everything, or maybe there's things you don't want to say, but can you tell us a little bit about what you're supplying on each of those jobs? Is it a different?
there's different stuff on each one.
So maybe just a little bit about that.
We partnered up on some of the fixtures on that particular job, and then some of the other bigger jobs we've partnered up with the fixtures and the piping and and that sort of thing too. So
Okay.
they're all kind of spread out there. Some will do a little bit more, some will do a little bit less, depending on there's so many factors that come into account on these buildings. So you'll work with a partner that you're contractor that you're got a great relationship with. But sometimes, on that particular job, because they might have 5 or 6 jobs on the go, you're going to do a smaller portion of that job with them, right? Just because of the logistics of everything. So each job
so more
is
to do with
very-
logistics and how busy they are, and the lead times and the supply you're able to give them, or is it pricing as well?
Well, it's a multitude of factors on each job. So every job is very complex. There's not one that's at all the same, really.
No.
So yeah, like sometimes the pricing be different, sometimes supply be different, and we also understand that they have relationships with other wholesalers
Yeah,
as well,
of
and they
course,
want to maintain those as well. So
It's rare that a trade, especially I think in that realm, would do a job without at least 3 quotes, right? To keep people honest and to keep, because you could see a big discrepancy on $1 million worth of material. I mean, it could be
Exactly.
100,000 one way or the other, right?
we might do it with one, we might do product on one, and then the next building they might decide to go somewhere else. Just see how they might be stretched out.
Yeah.
On if they're buying all this material there, they might want to buy the next job with them. So then they kind of have an even split with their relationships as well,
And
right?
What Tom was saying earlier, like building these relationships, like these are formal B2B relationships. Like they're, the years you want them to last years. How important? Like talk about your relationship with with that contractor. If they just completed a big job like Richmond Yards and it went really well, and you were part of that, and you were able to get stuff there on time, and everything kind of went smooth, like that's going to lead to more. They're just lead to more work. They're not going to switch out, right?
Well, the relationships we try to make are very long term.
Yeah.
There's guys that I've been here for 4 years right now. there's guys in the industry, they come over to my house, and we're more, you're business partners, but you're also friends.
Yeah.
And as Tom kind of said earlier, you're
Trust
kind of
builds
like
and-
you're kind of like a family, really.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a small city, so
Plus these
yeah.
jobs, I mean, they last a year for each contractor,
Oh,
right?
for
You-
sure,
You
yeah.
got to talk to them once a week, a couple times a week, at least, maybe every day.
Maybe every day, sometimes.
And you're
right?
pulling each other from the
Yeah.
fire sometimes.
Yeah.
There's a lot that comes into building the relationships, right?
Yeah.
So
And I mean, we're all selling things, right? So
Yeah.
the differentiator is really the support and the service and like the on-site support that somebody like Steve would provide, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that's where like your experience being around a site and being in that world is a big thing, and that's just coming from my own experience as a contractor, right?
Yeah.
Who speaks the same language and who that pretty quick. So
I like to get to know everybody on the sites, but then
Yeah.
also in the office as well.
Yeah.
So anybody can call me if there's an issue, and we're there to back up.
and you're spending a
their
lot of your
operation.
time out on these sites that are throughout
Yeah.
Nova Scotia, right? Like you're
Yeah.
out, you're visiting sites a lot and
Yeah.
there talking to the guys. And
Steve,
loves
any large Proflow jobs that you might want to mention in the city that you can think of?
There's one out in Dartmouth for sure on
Okay.
on Basswood Run.
can you clarify Proflow for
So
the
one of our
listeners?
own brand lines.
Yeah.
That's your own brand
That's our
line.
fixture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fixtures.
Yeah,
Okay. And where was it again?
it's out in Basswood Run in Dartmouth. We did a
Okay.
job out there.
Okay. It
So
was
we
a
did-
multi-unit or was it
It
residential
was
or
220 units, I believe, combined.
okay.
Yeah.
What project were you mentioning earlier off air? Something here local? Was it in the north end? Is it a wastewater treatment? No.
It's down
So-
in it's off of Goodwood in the industrial park.
Okay.
It's actually
Recycling
organics.
That's right. Sorry.
They take compostable waste, organics,
Mhm.
and they actually break it down and recycle it or whatever. But the technology that's put into there is actually, I think, the most advanced facility, I'm going to say, outside of, I think it's Calgary, if I'm not mistaken. So
Wow.
it's pretty advanced technology coming to our city. It's
So-
awesome. It could be Montreal, but
Yeah. So how does that
anyway, yeah.
impact you at Wolseley? Like, is it a job where you can tell, well, this has got all kinds of different spec and different units? Does it make it harder for you to, like, obviously it's within your 100,000 lines that you
Yeah,
carry or
it's in
whatever
there.
it is,
Yeah,
but-
yeah. Sometimes you actually got to go outside of those lines to
and
find.
sometimes you do. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I
Yeah,
was leading into.
sure.
Like, so sometimes you do have to go outside of what
Yeah.
you're, to make
Something
it
that's
work.
a little unique. I mean,
Yeah.
that's when our vendor partnerships really kick in, right? We got to
Exactly.
sit down, we got to figure out what is actually being requested here,
Yeah.
get a good understanding of the equipment, and then we go from there. So
Quick shout out to the newest sponsor of the show, the Stone Depot. The Stone Depot is located in Bears Lake, Halifax, but serves all of the East Coast. The showroom over 8,000 square feet, perfect for masonry contractors, landscaping contractors, builders, developers. Regardless, the Stone Depot is a great option for you, whether you're doing fire pits, patio stones, kitchen and interior stones. So if you're looking for a great stone supplier, visit the Stone Depot. This episode is brought to you by Airtight Spaces. Airtight Spaces is Atlantic Canada's first authorized aero barrier dealer. They help create comfortable, healthy, and durable living environments with the added benefit of energy efficiency. Air sealing is a critical step towards net zero buildings. Using air pressure to automatically guide sealing guarantees the highest quality results in the least amount of time with the least amount of effort. If air sealing is important to you, you can visit Airtight Spaces at www.airtightspaces.com. Pivot Bookkeeping is your one-stop shop and customizable bookkeeping, tax, and filing service. With Pivot, you have the peace of mind knowing your taxes are always filed on time and your bookkeeping is reconciled often. Using their non-proprietary software and applications, all of your business finances are securely handled by their local account managers. Pivot takes great pride in providing you with unlimited support and a direct line to your account managers right here in Nova Scotia. Whether you're an established business looking for new options and increase efficiency, or a newer company looking to build a solid foundation for future growth, Pivot has a product that can be modified to your needs. Consider making the pivot today. Book a free consultation at pivotbookkeeping.com.
Yeah. I assume that happens on your healthcare projects and
Oh, yeah.
ones that you just mentioned.
boilers shipped from Italy and
Yeah.
different things.
And
like
you have
that.
dedicated staff here that are focused on, I think you mentioned his name, or is it Mitchell?
Yeah, so Mitchell Heisinger is one of our, he's one of our outside reps like Steve, but Mitchell's unique in his position. He deals with, so one of the companies that he manages is the Cal group of companies. So they have various facets as well. So they have Atlantica, Life Safety, Link.
Okay.
So there are a lot that fall under that umbrella. And of course, a lot of their projects are, throughout Canada, but specifically, Mitchell deals with all the ones throughout Atlantic Canada, which is really nice. He migrates throughout the region, so he's not in one specific position. And it allows us, as we've mentioned, the ability to say, hey, this worked for this group here. We use this product, or, if we run into any issues, it allows us just an avenue to look at solutions, right, for the companies. So Mitchell he does have a bid spec background, grew up engineering family, grandfather, father, all engineers. So it's really in his wheelhouse. It's a shame we don't have him here today, because he could, sit here and talk about projects, some of the ones he's worked on.
Sure.
I've gotten the ability to do some walkthroughs on those.
That's pretty satisfying.
Yeah, it's
Generally schools and hospitals for
schools
the
and
most part.
hospitals, energy centers. Like we worked on the Newfoundland Adult Mental Health Facility, which was a huge project over in Newfoundland.
Yeah, that was in recent years, right?
That's still ongoing. Yeah, I just did a walkthrough of the site, and it's incredible. Just
wrapping up now.
It's yes,
Or somewhat close, yeah.
They're coming on to the finished work of a lot of things right now, and it's pretty impressive. We did another hospital in Corner Brook, acute care facility there. We're working on the NSCC campus up in Cape Breton.
In Sydney,
also,
right on the water.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
there's changes going on here as well for NSCC locally. And then there's the Energy Center, of course. There's so much.
Wow.
So again, as we've talked about, we have specific members of the team just to cover off everything that our customers might need throughout Atlantic. Like Steve specializes here in the city, and he's done an incredible job. Mitchell migrates throughout. We have a rep in New Brunswick, and he really specializes in HVAC. All things HVAC. So we definitely have a multifaceted team here. And the cool thing about it is, like we've talked about, other areas may individually operate, but we constantly collaborate as a team.
Right. Between the different provinces.
Correct.
And different,
Yeah. As I mentioned, I manage the sales. I also have an outside team. I have an inside team, and that inside team, they're not in a branch. They're not dealing face to face with customers and being interrupted. They sit remote, and literally from 7:30 to 6:30 every day, they field incoming requests. They pump out quotes, but they take care of the whole region. So it really allows us, like we've talked about, these companies that are not just a local Halifax company. They're dealing throughout the region. We have eyes across the board, and just gives them a seamless operation. Just a higher comfort level, of course, that they're being taken care of.
Yeah, not to mention their local, relationships with your partners and
That's
contractors.
right. Yeah.
And
So we have the
ground.
local, and then we have them, of course, on the back end, just making sure that everything runs smoothly.
Yeah, you mentioned you had a rep in Prince Edward Island as well, which is
Correct.
kind of a hot spot for the size of the market. Things are
Very hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's doing, like we said, we don't have a location there, but he's got great history, great relationships with the people. You talk about talking the talk, and, this guy really knows his stuff. And so although we don't have a branch for them to be able to walk into, Jason is so well equipped and well versed.
New Brunswick's not that far.
That's right. Moncton
Yeah, we're shipping product from Moncton or
we ship-
Glasgow
yeah.
or wherever we need to get
we
it
ship
from.
we ship right from Moncton or New Glasgow. He actually, and that's right, he actually comes from PEI and even takes care of some companies in New Glasgow as well. So
Yeah, I mean, it just makes me think you have a pretty complex goal there to supply all these contractors in different markets all through the region. And maybe, Tom, you could talk a little bit about the importance of like the people that are filling those roles. You mentioned Mitchell with an engineering background, and he's got experience on lots of different jobs. We can pull from that. Maybe the same engineers there that he worked with 2 years ago on, but just having those people in those roles, and it's so important, right? I mean,
it is.
And the labor shortage.
Yes.
I mean, we talk a lot about that from a service contractor's standpoint with a lot of different people on our podcast, but it's affecting the suppliers too. It's affecting architects. It's affecting everyone, right? So
it absolutely is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think our business is unique, right? Because it's not cookie cutter. It's very different.
Yeah.
One branch to the next. I mean, the customers that we're supporting are often different.
Yeah.
And our inventory is different, right? So the people that we have in, say, one branch compared to another, they may have different strengths depending on what is required in each area. So, yeah, I mean, I would say it's been a challenge to try and find the right people. Like we were talking about earlier, it's not like there's like this pool of folks out there that are just waiting to get into distribution, right? You have to almost shine
Funny
a
how
light.
that is, eh? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to we need to do a better job, I think, of shining a light on
What it means to be in that realm.
right
Yeah.
and the different areas that you can go into once you sort of get on that side.
And you'll see a lot of people. I take great pride. So we talked about the fact that I'm only 2.5 years with Wolseley.
And you have a business degree, right?
I have a
So it's like
business.
you do study supply chain management and some of that kind of stuff.
That's
And
right.
some of the courses and statistics and whatever, your critical path and that.
And this would be probably one of the most complex industries that you could get into, actually.
Yeah.
But just talking about the fact of, how important everyone is, and just how it is, it's everyone is a spoke in the wheel of our team. And, being able to bounce it off and operate as a whole in locally, I really think makes a big difference for us.
Yeah, it's gotta be tough on Tom just to keep. You'd be looking ahead thinking, I might have to replace this guy, might retire.
Sure.
I'm not sure. This guy just put his 2 weeks in.
Right.
I got these positions to fill.
I always got to be thinking ahead a little bit, but I
yeah.
am so lucky to be working with this team. We really honestly have a phenomenal team.
And I was
So
going to
it's
say,
a pleasure.
to my point where I was going with that before was, 2.5 years in, and every time I'm in the branch, I talk to people. I'm like, like Tom said, 26 years. We just had a retirement party last 2 weeks ago for a gentleman, 40 years.
Yep.
Right. And there were so many people at that party that were like, oh, I worked with him, 20, 30 years ago. And they stay. They stay in this industry. And more importantly, they stay with Wolseley. Wolseley is...
Yeah, that's the proof in the pudding, right?
Yeah.
They
It
stay
really
that long.
is. It was probably the best career decision I've made so far. Just the support as a company, what they do for their employees, some of the initiatives. We talk about the give back. Wolseley has a cool thing. If you want to go volunteer for a day, they'll pay you for that day. So you just have to show that you volunteered. They want us all to grow. We're constantly being offered. Steve, I know you're in a leadership program. I've completed leadership programs. I have members of my team. I love them in the sales role, but are they going to be in sales forever? Probably not. Wolseley offers you, okay, you want to move into management? Sure, we'll train you. We'll give you the courses that you need.
Yeah.
Anything, supporting going back, of course, to school and furthering your education, Wolseley fully supports that as well. So it's pretty awesome. And as a female in the business, we talked about it's very limited. I'd love to try to encourage more women to enter into this industry because it's growing, it's challenging, it's fun, it's never boring because there's so many facets to the business. But you can be very, very successful as a woman in this industry. And right now we're about 10%, so pretty low. But Wolseley, we have a group called Women of Wolseley, where it's a network across Canada. We fully support, any females looking to further their education, further their roles within the company. So very well supported company for that.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I think we can use all the women in the industry that we can get, and will keep us
Definitely need
headed in the right
agree.
direction.
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, maybe we can mention. I know we were talking earlier about just kind of the e-commerce side of Wolseley and the service offering and what that means to your partners and stuff. Maybe just giving a little info on that, Tom or Stephen, or.
Yeah, so Wolseley Express is our e-com platform.
Okay.
And really it's essentially every product that we sell in the business is available online to our customers, right? So what does that mean for our customers? At the end of the day, it saves them time. If they
Coming in physically.
yeah, they
to the
wouldn't
store.
necessarily need to come into the branch. They could place orders at home, or they wouldn't have to wait on hold at a branch, or they wouldn't have to wait to talk to somebody specifically in a branch.
Is it
They
the
can-
contractor end user using this as well? Or?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah, it
what the
is.
platform
Yeah,
is
okay.
for. It's
All
for our contracting customers.
Is it an app they can download on their phone too?
It is.
Okay,
Yep.
so it's really streamlined.
It is. It is really streamlined, and a lot of our vendors, partner with us on content for Wolseley Express. Just as an example, Kohler, I think, has done a great job. We've picked up Kohler about a year and a half ago now.
They're
It's
a
been
big brand.
Phenomenal line for us. Has been going really, really well. And when you go onto Wolseley Express, you can click into the Kohler website directly and bring up specs and pictures and dimensional data, anything that you need. So it's again, I think it just makes the day-to-day life for our contractors a lot easier. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember what I was gonna. Did you have something you were gonna say there?
Oh no, we were just talking about just Wolseley Express in general. I mean, there's just so many facets of the platform that are making the user experience just a seamless one, a friendlier one. We talk about we have lists, customer lists. So if you you constantly buy the same thing, you can go in. Your lists are already there. We have the option of barcode scanning even.
Right.
So if you have, say for instance, you have a large shop or warehouse or truck stock or anything like that, we actually have a barcode system. You can use your phone and you can scan and basically shop from your own shop, or you can replenish any of your truck stock, any of your shop stock very easily and efficiently. So a lot
And you're
of
saving the end user time, right?
So much time.
Contractors,
Well,
if you're saving them time,
Yeah.
I'm sure you're getting some great feedback on that.
And Jackie nailed it. I mean, for the customers who are buying the same thing day after
It's
day after
perfect.
day,
Yeah.
it's a perfect tool for them. Yeah.
It shows you availability.
Their
so-
trends. And,
Yeah, so it shows you their trends. You can go back and look what you've paid for something previously, or what was it that I bought. The pictures, visuals are all there. We have Invoice Gateway on there as well. So for those operating, of course, in the office with all the bookkeeping, we have a full year of invoicing that's available through that site as well. It's pretty.
There's training
endless.
available online too. on
Training
Wolseley
available
Express. So
through
if you
the
want to
Wolseley
do a
Express.
hydronics training session, there's you can sort of sign in and do the training on.
And there's product comparisons. So for instance, if you do go to purchase a specific product and it's not available, they'll give you options of comparable products. So again, really taking that time from a user having to go try to find something, because as we've talked about, a lot of these are very specific. They're integral, they're mechanical items. So you having to take the time to go and find a like product, we've done that for you in many cases. So again, a very user-friendly experience.
anything to add, Stephen?
I just wanted to add to that. If you look at our inventory side of that as well, it doesn't only show you that it's in stock in Dartmouth. It can show you that it's in stock in our DC. And then it can also, if it's not in stock in either one, there's also another symbol there that shows you that it's got to be brought by the manufacturer.
Right. And they want to know that because if they want 1,000 more in 2 months, they know there's lots in DC.
At the
and
DC,
Ontario,
so they
and-
can kind of plan out by looking at that. They can plan a guy going to Dartmouth the next morning. Again, integrate it back into our whole system as our company. It's very great features.
Yeah. One of the things about, doing this podcast and having so many different guests on from large companies, large corporate organizations, smaller local companies, or Atlantic region only companies, is that you just get a lot of different contexts. And I remember talking to Ellis Don about the labor shortage. Sean Stiles and Travis Rudolph, and Sean was saying, they do have a bit of an advantage because they're national. They can kind of pull from their employee pool. Maybe someone's willing to move from the Western provinces here, but not only that, but there's other advantages too, right? Just from you're here handling the umbrella of the company for this region. Maybe just talk a little bit about Wolseley as a whole, and like, are your communication with head office in Ontario, or what it's like if you're traveling there every quarter. Just a little bit about what it's like under the Wolseley brand in Atlantic specifically, but the advantages of because you mentioned all the different programs and things that you're doing across the country, and the internal logistics that give you the advantage. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think for our region specifically, like we had mentioned, it's a large geography, and it's very critical that we are staying engaged and we're collaborating all the time. So, I mean, Teams has helped, right? I mean, we all get on Teams fairly regularly, maybe a little bit more than we should, but we need to address that. But at the end of the day, we need to be talking with important folks, key folks in the business, as far as what they need and what's working well and what are they having challenges with. So I think we do a good job. We have to do a good job with that when you look at the region of Atlantic. And I would say that our support from corporate is much the same. We are engaged with initiatives that are going on from our corporate team. We're on at least 2 calls a week. Just to keep everybody informed.
Point of contact all the time.
It's really to keep everybody up to speed on what's cooking, right?
What's really cool, we
it's
do
really
a
important.
national call. well.
Yeah.
So across the board, every, once a week, so every Monday, there's over 100 of us that sit on a national call so we can hear what's going on across the country. So if we start hearing of issues of supply chain issues or things that are starting to become very popular in other regions, we can start to plan ahead. It gives us some visibility to be able to see what's happening on a national basis. But not only that, it also gives us a lot of more eyes kind of on what's going on to provide solutions. So if we raise an issue that we're having in Atlantic, someone in BC might say, oh, hey, ran into that. This is what we did.
Sure.
And we do that
Yes.
every week. And we plan in advance. And it has been very, very effective for us. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're all learning from each other. And though you're in different markets, like you said, large geographic area, not as condensed. You go talk Montreal or
Yeah.
Toronto. It's small geographic and it's the volumes, so much higher.
Communication's
and-
key. Yeah,
Yeah.
communication really is key. And I
It
think
is.
that's what has kind of afforded us some of our success in the last few years of the change, right? So we have, when we talk about the change, we used to be part of kind of Ontario as we operated, but since Tom has come into play, we operate with the autonomy here in Atlantic that we, make our own decisions. But of course, we work as a whole with Wolseley and Wolseley's initiatives. Yeah.
Yeah, and like for example, like Steven, in your role when you're dealing with these contractors on jobs like Richmond Yards or the mills, and you start talking to them early on, you're in a meeting maybe one week and talking to the team and saying like, hey, do we have, do you guys know that we're going to need, this volume of that and this change, and so you're kind of like you're all even down the supply chain, even though that's not your position. That communication is so important because throughout the year, you're going to have problems if you don't catch them 3-6 months in advance, right?
It's critical. It's
Forecasting.
absolutely
Yeah.
critical.
Yeah.
I mean, if Steve wins a job, then the next conversation is to Jackie, and then we'll chat about it. And then, quite often we're bringing in our supply chain business partners to just talk about, hey, this is what's coming. This is the ETA that we have. So we need to be prepared for that. So again, 3,000 employees coast to coast. And it's very important that we're all sort of rowing in the right direction.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big operation. Anything else that you guys want to touch on that we haven't mentioned individually or for on behalf of Wolseley? We talked a lot of different things.
Yeah, I think we've talked about a lot of our specialized staff. We have Clinton, who's new in a role. So Clinton Rempel, who used to head out our bid spec, a lot of experience. He's now manning a hydronics category for us. So we're trying to make improvements. So we're putting people in place, of course, to make those necessary changes.
Right.
Specialized individuals who kind of eat, breathe, sleep that category to just help make sure that we're on the right path.
Yeah,
And
R&D is a big
it
thing,
is.
right?
Forecasting is a big thing for us. We're constantly, like you talk about, you get this particular job. Well, did we forecast that we needed that much copper or
Right.
steel or cast or whatever?
It's a
the
big
case
focus
may be.
right now, for
It's
sure.
a huge focus for us right now. So certainly, that's pretty important.
Yeah, we also wanted to plug the Wolseley Expo that
Yeah.
we're hosting here.
Oh, yes.
So Atlantic
Upcoming
Region
event.
is hosting the Wolseley Expo here in Halifax, June 1st.
Okay.
So
That'll be at the Halifax Convention Center? Or?
it's at the
Pier 23.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's at Pier 23, so just down behind the Westin there. And I think right now we have about 35 vendors or something like that, 35 vendors coming in. And they're going to be from every facet. So from fixtures to HVAC to installation.
So we're going to run 3 to 7. So it doesn't run all day. So it's towards the end of the day. So a little
Okay.
more convenient for our customers to get in.
Yeah.
We're going to have some food. We're going to have some entertainment. So honestly, it's like the first time that we've been able to pull
Yeah.
contractors together for a little
Here in
bit of a
Atlantic.
mini trade show since the pandemic.
Oh,
Right?
that's awesome.
So,
Well, hopefully
yeah.
lots of contractors are listening in and
Yeah.
here. And
hoping
June,
so.
say the date again?
June 1st.
June 1st.
Yeah.
Okay.
June
3 to
It's a
7.
Thursday.
Pier 23. Okay.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Should be a great time. We're
Yeah.
hoping for a great turnout. We've heard from contractors from across Atlantic who say they're coming to town to attend, and it should be a really great turnout.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Steven, you got any last words there?
Well, I'd say my last words is, working for Wolseley, I think it's a fantastic business. I think the culture that we've created here in Atlantic Canada is unbelievable. Like it's beyond anything I've ever seen at a business. So when I think that culture just propels us out there with our contractors, and they feel the energy, right?
For
and
sure.
the energy brings
Yeah.
back business and just continues to build those relationships. So
Yeah, I can feel it
Yeah.
too. No,
Yeah.
it's
We're
great.
huge on team building. We're very much we're very much a team. We come together a few times a year.
So
and-
that's how when everyone would see each other would be a couple times a year from all the different at the same time.
Generally
right?
twice.
And
Yeah.
you see each other throughout the week on video calls
Yep.
and whatnot. But
yeah. We
it's nice to be in person.
Yeah, we try as often as possible. We do it twice a year where we get together with our team, for a couple of days. We have events where we compete against each other. So to keep that
Ring
competitive-
toss.
Oh, yeah.
Very popular.
We
Some
curled.
competitive spirit.
We
brewing.
curled a couple weeks ago as
Yeah.
a team, and that was a lot of fun. We're
got
very
pretty intense.
I
we're,
bet.
we're extremely competitive in nature. But yeah, just to talk
Lots of
about
screaming.
the closeness.
There was a ton of screaming.
A ton of
Yeah.
screaming, yeah. But the closeness, right? Just as a team, I think that's really the catalyst that helps us, continue to be passionate about what we do, because you have to have that. It's a long, arduous process. Like, we're constantly working on these projects. There's so many issues. There's so many fires to put out. But at the end of the day, if you love what you do, it doesn't drain you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you love who you work with, and, we pretty much work literally, like, our mantra is just kind of get it done. And I feel like everyone that's part of this team has that same mantra.
Carry that same passion.
Yeah.
It's so easy to work towards a common goal
Yeah.
and communicate. Like, I remember thinking about a story or something I seen on this is TSN or like some of the, it may have been Sidney Crosby or some of the other, top tier players. Like, one of the things that the coaches or players always know, they're talked all the time. They never shut up during the game. They're talking about every little
Yeah,
play
for
back
sure.
on the bench.
Yeah, it's
Like
true.
what Tom and Jacqueline, Stephen, you guys are saying, like, just
Work hard,
constantly
communicate,
talking to each
collaborate.
other all the time.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
Yeah, we do a great job of communicating. I think that's really what if I, could really, it's the positivity for sure. Our team we're just super passionate and positive focused, but the communication, we regularly communicate, and it makes us more efficient. Right?
Yeah, well, we really appreciate your time today. It's great to have three individuals from an organization, from different facets of the organization, to get different perspectives. So that was great in the conversation. So Stephen and Jacqueline and Tom, just on behalf of Atlanta Construction Podcast, I want to thank you for your time, and it's great to sit with you and have this conversation today.
Thanks so
That
much
was
for having
great.
us. It's been fun.
Cheers.
A lot of fun.
Cheers.
Thanks.
This episode is brought to you by Cook Insurance, your trusted insurance broker in Atlanta, Canada for 50 years. Insurance is complex, and the Cook team focuses on delivering comprehensive solutions for your construction needs, including builder's risk, wrap-up liability, performance bonds, and project-specific construction. A Navicord partner since 2020, Cook is one of the largest construction brokers in Canada and offers national strength with a local touch. Whatever your insurance needs are, Cook has you covered.
The team at Atlantic Construction Podcast have been able to build a strong relationship with the folks over at FCA Surety. FCA Surety is heavily engaged in supporting the Atlantic construction marketplace and helping contractors to build their businesses, and we can't recommend them enough. While FCA has their head office in Ontario, many of the members of their team have lived in Atlantic, Canada, and worked in the construction community here. This gives them a unique national perspective with a local flavor. Andrew Cartwright leads FCA's national surety operations as Vice President of Surety. Their knowledge of the bonding marketplace and understanding of how insurance companies view your business is unparalleled. In addition, the depth of their team and reach across Canada gives them the ability to draw on numerous experiences to help clients navigate items like subtrade, construction disputes, liens, and supplier risk management. These are the things that separate FCA Surety from the pack. Make sure to give the guys a call over at FCA Surety for all of your bonding and surety needs.